Discover the incredible truth. I uncovered your hidden life-changing purchase after 5 years. Mark stood in the sweltering heat of the garage, a cold sweat on his brow and a heart burdened by grief. It had been 5 long years since Amelia's laughter had filled their small home. 5 years since she'd slipped away, leaving him alone with their spirited daughter, Lily. The walls held memories that haunted him, each creak echoing her absence. As a mechanic in the quaint town of Willow Creek, he spent his days fixing cars, wrestling with the weight of financial strain, while nights were filled with Lily's innocent laughter, the only light breaking through the clouds of sorrow on that fateful summer afternoon. While rummaging through the cluttered chaos of forgotten tools and parts, Mark's hand brushed against something cool and metallic. He pulled out an old coffee machine, dusty and seemingly useless. Curiosity sparked within him. He wiped it down, revealing its age and character, and as he did, something magical happened. The hidden treasure of Amelia's handwritten recipes came into view. Each letter infused with her spirit, bursting with dreams of a coffee shop that would bring the community together, igniting a flicker of hope in his grieving heart, but his excitement was met with a bitter reality. The small town was enraptured by a wealthy newcomer determined to replace charming independent shops with a corporate coffee chain. As he voiced his intentions to open a coffee shop in honor of Amelia, doubt hung thick in the air. Murmurs of skepticism swirled around him, neighbors casting glances that pierced like daggers, questioning how a mechanic could possibly challenge the grip of big money. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined, Mark organized a community coffee event, hoping to rally the townsfolk around his vision. The air filled with the smell of freshly baked pastries and the sound of laughter, yet doubt gnawed at him with each passing moment. Standing in front of a crowd, he grappled with feelings of inadequacy, wondering if Amelia's dream could truly come to life. Let me share something, he began, his hands trembling. He poured his heart out, revealing the old machine and Amelia's letters, illuminating her dreams and the love she had for the community. His voice quivered as he urged everyone to reveal their own dreams, their own struggles. An electric silence held the crowd. Some began to share, their voices shaky yet resolute. As stories unfolded, Mark felt the room shifting. Hope danced within him as, one by one, faces brightened. The tension eased, replaced by shared humanity, a collage of dreams mingling together. But as he looked around, uncertainty remained, a shadow lurking in the corner of his vision. Could he truly lift the burden of doubt from this community? As the night wound down, Mark took a deep breath. This coffee shop, this isn't just mine, it's ours, he declared. The crowd held its breath. In his heart, a new question bubbled, unafraid to surface. Would the people of Willow Creek rally behind him, or would they cling to the past? A moment of hope hung in the air, but it was heavy with unyielding questions. The next morning, Mark woke up to the sound of Lily giggling in the backyard. The sun beamed through the window, carrying with it a warmth that thawed some of the doubt nestled deep within Mark's heart. He peeked out to find Lily chasing butterflies, her joy infectious. It reminded him of Amelia and her ability to find beauty in the simplest moments. After breakfast, he headed to the garage, the old coffee machine resting on a workbench, just as he had left it. The scent of coffee beans hung in the air from last night's gathering lingered, swirling thoughts in his mind. He could almost hear Amelia's laughter encouraging him to fight for the dream they had shared. With each step he took toward the coffee machine, his resolve strengthened. He had stirred something within the community, a glimmer of hope, and he would do everything to keep that spark alive. Mark picked up the machine and examined it closely. It had wear and tear, just like him, but there was still life in it. He recalled the stories shared last night, the shared laughter, the moment when Mr. Thompson, the town's retired school teacher, said he always wanted to open a library cafe where he could inspire children to read. Suddenly, an idea blossomed. Maybe this coffee shop could be more than just part of Amelia's dream. It could symbolize hope and connection for everyone in Willow Creek. Mark grabbed a notepad and began jotting down his thoughts, his heart racing as ideas flowed. What if they featured a dream board in the coffee shop, where townspeople could share their aspirations? What if every week, they invited locals to share their stories, like an open mic night but centered around dreams and coffee? Lily peeked into the garage, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Daddy, what are you doing?" "Just thinking about 100 new ways to make coffee," he said with a wink, ruffling her hair. Lily giggled and scurried off to the side, declaring she would help him make the best pastries. Inspired, Mark saw her fierce determination. It echoed his own. Together, they could create something magical, honor Amelia, and weave their own dreams with the fabric of the community. As the day progressed, Mark shared his newfound ideas with neighbors who wandered by. Each person responded with unexpected enthusiasm. "What about a bake-off?" suggested Mrs. Hargrove, her face lighting up. "We could showcase local talents." Their excitement nourished his hope, and the weight on his chest lightened with each conversation. But just as the flame of possibility flickered alive, Mark spotted a glint of luxury car tires rolling into town. The newcomer was back. His heart sank. That man, with his sharp suits and cutting-edge coffee chains, was determined to crush everything they were building. Mark could feel the looming threat shadowing over his fragile dream, like clouds obscuring a bright sky. He needed to act fast. As the sun began to set, casting golden rays across the town, Mark gathered his thoughts, ready to confront the inevitable clash. The stakes felt higher than ever. Would the people of Willow Creek support him against corporate greed, or would this moment slip through his fingers like grains of sand? Determined, he took a deep breath and set the date. The first public gathering in the vacant lot where Amelia's dream could finally take root was just around the corner. But would his community rally together to strike a blow against the oncoming corporate tide? With resolve, he called Lily in, their laughter blending harmoniously under the sunset. Hope surged and flickered like stars in their eyes. But doubt remained, lurking like shadows. Could they really bring the town together? Would they be enough to withstand the pressures that lay ahead? Questions hung in the air as they moved forward, edging closer to the defining moment for their dream. But with each passing day, Mark felt the heartbeat of the community echo inside him, a rhythm that might just be strong enough to change everything. The next chapter awaited, but first, he needed to prepare for the battle ahead. The morning of the big gathering arrived, adorned with a clear blue sky and crisp air. Mark stood outside, pacing in the backyard, his heart thudding like a bass drum. Today could alter the course of everything, but doubt clung to him stubbornly. What if no one showed up? What if they did, only to walk away disillusioned when faced with the polished corporation's allure? But in the distance, he could hear the familiar laughter of children, and as he turned, he saw Lily bouncing around with a few of her friends. Their wild joy grounded him. If Amelia had taught him anything, it was to embrace hope, however fragile. As Mark set up the makeshift tables and chairs, neighbors began trickling in, drawn by the scent of freshly baked cookies and brewed coffee. He caught snippets of conversation filled with excitement and anticipation. Mrs. Hargrove, her apron dusted with flour, brought 2 enormous trays of cookies, her face alight with purpose. "This will be our first feast, Mark," she declared, as she placed them down like trophies. He smiled, anxiety ebbing away, replaced by gratitude. He was reminded again how this gathering was much more than coffee. It was a community in motion, a heartbeat revitalizing their corner of the world. More familiar faces appeared, a couple of young musicians with guitars, a few students from the high school, and even Mr. Thompson, holding a book that he hinted would become a part of their future cafe's story corner. Each addition felt like a stitch weaving together a tapestry of hope. Soon, the sun cut through the early morning chill, bathing them all in warmth. With the sound of a guitar strumming softly in the background, Mark stepped up to speak, his heart fluttering in his chest. "Thank you all for coming today. This isn't just about a coffee shop, it's a canvas for our dreams and a place for everyone to share their stories." As he spoke, he spotted a familiar shadow lurking at the edge of the crowd. The man from the luxury car, dressed in a suit that screamed money, was observing them with a heavy scowl. Mark's voice faltered momentarily, but he pressed on. "This is our chance to build something lasting, to rise as a community." I know that together, we can offer something richer than mere profits. His words hung in the air, the earnestness in his voice palpable. Cheers erupted from the crowd, igniting his spirit like fireworks. But just as hope threatened to soar, the man stepped forward, a condescending smile plastered on his face. "You've got ambition, I give you that," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. "But nostalgia doesn't pay bills. Do you really think a quaint coffee shop can compete with a chain that brings real quality?" The laughter and excitement dissipated like wisps of smoke, replaced by murmurs of uncertainty. Mark's heart raced. Doubt threatened to choke him again. Would they really believe in this dream? Before he could respond, Lily barreled through the crowd, her small voice cutting through the tension. "Daddy, we can be more than that. We can all be great together," she declared, her little hands on her hips, facing the stranger. Her courage seemed to cast a protective shield over Mark, and he felt a spark of determination flare back to life. The crowd nodded, sparked back to life by the innocence of her words. Conversations ignited again, a chorus of voices rising in support. Suddenly, people were standing tall, rallying behind Mark and Lily, ready to embrace the fight for their hopes and dreams, but deep down, the uncertainty lingered. What if this stranger was right? What if they couldn't compete? More importantly, would their unity hold against the looming threat? As the gathering swelled with renewed energy, Mark resolved to confront the challenge head-on. Yet, lurking on the horizon was the shadow of the corporation, threatening to overshadow their plans. With each cheer from the crowd, he felt something shift within him. Where there had been doubt, now there was fire. But just how far could this newfound courage take them? With a flicker of hope in his heart, Mark understood they were only at the beginning of a much larger battle. Would their dreams be enough to conquer the shadows of ambition, or was this just the first step in a struggle that would test the very fabric of their community? The crowd vibrated with renewed energy, but Mark's heart was still a battleground. The man in the suit lingered, a shadowy figure casting doubt even as Lily's words illuminated the moment. Would the spark of hope they had ignited last, or would it flicker out like a candle against the wind? Moving in a blur of activity, Mark sought out the faces of those who stood by him. Mrs. Hargrove's eyes twinkled, her passion evident as she began handing out cookies to eager children. The young musicians exchanged excited glances while strumming upbeat tunes that filled the air with melody. They were all parts of a larger hope, and it surged within him, a tide he couldn't ignore. "Let us keep this going," he called out, raising his voice above the music. "Grab a cookie, say hello to a neighbor. This is about connection. Each of us has a story that adds flavor to our dreams." As laughter bubbled through the crowd, Mark felt the heaviness lift, if only for a moment. Yet every cheer tethered to the looming threat of the corporate machine Caliber Coffee Incorporated, brand named and high-priced. He couldn't shake the feeling that they would soon pounce like vultures over the fragile hope they were building. Before he could dwell too long in thought, the strumming guitars slowed, and a familiar face stepped forward. It was Jessica, an old classmate with a fierce resolve. "Mark, can I share something?" she asked, her eyes filled with determination. "Of course," he replied, stepping back as she took center stage. Jessica took a deep breath. "I remember when we were kids," she began, glancing around the crowd. "We would gather every weekend to share stories and laugh until we cried. But life got busy, and we drifted apart. I miss that, don't you?" Nods rippled through the crowd, little echoes of shared history. We all have our stories and dreams. Together, we can create our space. A place where kids can play, friends can connect, and everyone feels at home. Cheers erupted again, fueled not just by her words, but by memories shared in a fleeting summer, carelessly overlooked in adulthood. In that moment, Mark realized something profound. This wasn't just about starting a coffee shop, it was about reigniting a community that heavily depended on its roots. As Jessica spoke, the man in the suit shifted, crossing his arms with a scowl. Mark felt the weight of his stare but chose not to engage. Instead, he turned back to his community. "Let us keep the momentum at our backs. I propose we make this gathering a weekly event. Coffee, stories, music, and yes, cookies. The crowd roared to life, enthusiasm rippling as children shouted in delight. But even amidst their joy, a flicker of suspicion nagged at Mark. Would it be enough to stand firm against the might of corporate America? He glanced sideways at the man, who raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. As the gathering continued, Lily was swept away by her friends, blissfully unaware of the struggles tangling her father's heart. Mark looked around, feeling the warmth of these connections wrapping around him, yet beneath that warmth lay a cold current of uncertainty. Would their unity be enough? Would the echoes of their laughter and shared stories forge a fortress to stand against ambition's cleaving edge? Just as he pondered these questions, the man cleared his throat, stepping back into the light. You think this little gathering can survive against a corporation that's built on quality and finance? The crowd quieted, tension bubbling once again. Mark took a deep breath, his heart racing. Maybe it's not just about survival, he whispered under his breath, gathering his courage. Maybe it's about creating something better. He met the man's gaze directly, and something shifted within him. Would his words resonate enough to spark a flame? With every heartbeat echoing around him, he prepared to respond. This time, he wouldn't back down. But would his resolve be enough to ignite the fire needed to protect their dreams? Mark stood tall, adrenaline coursing through him as he faced the man in the suit. The tension thickened like fog, creeping in around them. He could see the doubts ripple through the crowd, but behind their worried gazes lay a flicker of hope. It was a fragile flame, but it was there. And he needed to nurture it, to fan those flames until they roared. Look, I know you doubt us, he began, his voice steady but passionate. You think we're just a group of friends reminiscing about the past. But this is bigger than memories. This is about rebuilding community. It's about belonging and nurturing the connections that make us stronger. The man in the suit raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. Community? That's nice, but can it compete with corporate branding and an expansive budget? You're outmatched here. Maybe, Mark acknowledged, the weight of those words heavy on his chest. But we are not powerless. We're a family. Each person here holds a piece of the dream we're creating. When we all come together, it becomes something real, something tangible. Something you can't buy. A murmur of agreement washed over the crowd. Mrs. Hargrove smiled encouragingly, while Jessica nodded, her eyes bright. Mark felt the surge of support swell around him, the warmth absolutely palpable. But he knew it wasn't enough just to feel it, action was required. They needed a plan. He leaned closer to the man, tapping into that deep-rooted determination. Let us make a deal, he said, his heart racing as he thought through his words. If we can show Caliber Coffee Incorporated that people want this space, that our community matters more than just profit, would you consider backing off? The man crossed his arms, skepticism etched into his features. Interesting proposition. But how do you plan to prove that? By throwing our first event. Mark proclaimed, the idea taking shape in his mind. We'll host a community coffee day, right here in the park. We'll invite everyone, local artists, vendors, food trucks, anything that showcases the heart of this community. We can turn this into a place where people want to gather. I like the sound of that, Jessica chimed in, her enthusiasm contagious. Our talents, our passions, our heart will shine through. The crowd erupted into cheers again, this time fueled by possibility. The once hesitant whispers grew into shouts of support, people rallying around the idea of a united event. Mark looked out at their eager faces, and the hope in the air was electric, but the man in the suit continued to play the skeptic. You think one event can make an impact? That's adorable, but let me remind you, corporations run on numbers, not dreams. That's where you're wrong, Mark replied, a fire igniting in his chest. Numbers can't measure love, connection, or community spirit. If we can show them that our dreams matter, they'll have to take us seriously. The crowd stood looming, a mix of apprehension and anticipation painted across their faces. Would they support this? Would they band together to bring this vision to life? Every heartbeat felt like a countdown to something bigger. I say we do it. Someone yelled from the back, prompting a wave of agreement. Hands shot up, voices filled with excitement. The man in the suit looked momentarily taken aback, a flicker of uncertainty breaking through his confident facade. Mark caught it, a glimpse that maybe beneath all that bravado, there was doubt. "All right," he relented with a hint of amusement. "You gather your crowd, throw your event. I'll be watching, and trust me, I'll be waiting to see if your community can actually hold together when faced with real pressure." Mark couldn't help the rush of victory that surged through him. They had a chance. But as he turned back to the crowd, that initial rush quickly faded. The thought of what lay ahead was daunting. Would they be able to pull together in time? "We'll do this," he told himself, the fire within him igniting once more. "This is for us." But just as they began discussing the details, a sudden commotion stirred at the edge of the park. A group of representatives from Caliber Coffee appeared, approaching with an unsettling confidence. Mark's heart dropped. What were they planning? Were they aiming to undermine everything they just built? The crowd held its breath, a fragile line of tension rebuilding once more. It was game time now, and Mark needed to be ready to protect their dream from these unexpected intruders. As the representatives drew closer, he realized that the fight was far from over. Would they succeed in rallying the community together, or would it crumble under the corporate pressure? Mark's pulse quickened as the Caliber Coffee representatives strode into view. For sharp-dressed individuals, their presence commanding and unyielding. Was this their corporate muscle? A part of him wanted to step forward and confront them, but he paused, feeling the weight of the crowd's anticipation on his shoulders. What do they want? Jessica whispered beside him, her knuckles white as she clenched the edge of the table where their plans lay. The chatter around them had turned from excitement to anxiety. "Let us just see," Mark replied, trying to sound calm. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, putting on a brave face. The crowd murmured behind him, but he could sense a shared resolve, even in their uncertainty. The lead representative, a woman with sharp features and an even sharper gaze, looked around the crowd. "Interesting turnout," she remarked, her tone dripping with condescension. "Do you really think you can sway public opinion with some small event?" Mark swallowed hard, but he could feel the strength of unity behind him. "We believe our community matters. It's not just about profit, it's about people." She laughed softly, making his skin crawl. "People? That's adorable. Do you know how many branches we have? How many pockets we fill? This corner of the world is just another notch on our belt." Her words pierced through him. Was this how they viewed their town? Just a means to an end? The crowd shifted, there was a palpable anger brewing. "Everyone here has a stake," Mark shot back, the confidence building within him. "You can't just move in and expect to take over. This space means something to us." With every word, he could feel the crowd rallying behind him, their collective heart beating as one. The man in the suit from earlier began to smirk, now watching both sides with keen interest. It was a standoff, and Mark wouldn't back down. The lead representative squared her shoulders, her eyes narrowing. "Tell me, how do you plan to sustain this community spirit once the novelty of your little event wears off? What happens when the coffee fades?" Mark's stomach churned. It was a valid question, one he had no answer for in that moment. He glanced over at Jessica, who seemed to read his thoughts. "We just need to show them," she whispered fiercely. "We need to make them believe that this is more than just coffee. It's our home." Her words fueled a fire inside him. "We are more than just numbers," he said, raising his voice, feeling the rhythm of support building again. "If we show up together, if we support each other, Caliber Coffee will see that community isn't something to be bulldozed. It's something to be cherished." He turned to the crowd, who were nodding, their determination clear. This was more than coffee, this was their fight for identity. The representative raised an eyebrow, intrigued, clearly attempting to calculate the weight of Mark's words. "I'll tell you what," she said, composing herself. "If you can manage to gather more than 100 attendees for your community coffee day, I might reconsider the company's plans. Otherwise, you'll be staring at a closed sign in no time." Mark felt a knot tighten in his stomach. 100? It felt monumental, like summoning everyone from their busy lives to rally behind a dream. But in that moment, among the worried glances and stirring emotions from the crowd, he knew it had to be done. "Deal," he said, surprising himself with his confidence. The crowd gasped collectively, and he could sense their support strengthening him. The representative smirked again, clearly viewing this as a game. "Good luck then." "You'll need it," she said as she turned to leave, her entourage trailing behind her. Mark watched them leave, the weight of the challenge settling in. As the crowd began to chatter excitedly, Mark felt a spark of hope. This was their moment to stand together. They needed to mobilize, to connect every thread of their community. "What do we do now?" Jessica asked, whispering through the buzz of conversation. "We gather," Mark replied, determination swirling within him. "We spread the word. And we show them who we are. This isn't just a coffee day, it's our future at stake." But deep down, Mark couldn't shake the unease. Was gathering 100 people enough to truly make a statement? Would it change anything, or was he setting them all up for disappointment? As the crowd began planning, Mark felt the weight of the task ahead. Would they rise to the occasion, or would they scatter under pressure like leaves in the wind? He had to believe in them. They had to believe in themselves. Because the countdown had begun, and when coffee day arrived it would change everything, or nothing at all. Mark spent the entire night brainstorming, fueled by a potent mix of anxiety and determination. He sat cross-legged on his living room floor, surrounded by crumpled papers covered in half-formed ideas and sketches. The warm light of a single lamp cast long shadows across the room, but all he could see was the looming challenge ahead. With Jessica by his side, they threw ideas back and forth, tackling everything from flyers to social media campaigns. "We need to capture their hearts," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "Let us share stories. Show what caliber coffee means to us." Mark nodded, buoyed by her enthusiasm. They drafted flyers that spoke of community, love, and the memories tied to every cup of coffee in the local shops. Every word felt heavy with meaning, like they were pouring their hopes into each piece. "It can't just be about coffee," he said, his voice rising. "It's about friendships, families, the kids playing in the park after school. That's what makes this community special." As dawn broke, casting a gentle light over the town, Mark felt a swell of hope. But that hope quickly intertwined with doubt. Who would actually show up? He thought of the people who had always rushed past him busy and preoccupied. Would they care enough to fight for something beyond convenience? Days flew by as they hustled to ignite excitement. They set up a booth at the local farmers market, handing out homemade coffee samples, creating buzz, and sharing stories of love and challenges tied to their favorite coffees. Mark grinned as familiar faces smiled back, memories sparking like fireworks in their eyes. He began to believe that maybe they could pull this off. However, the deeper they dove into the community outreach, the heavier that knot in his stomach became. Just 2 days before coffee day, Mark stood outside the local diner, watching the locals stroll by, buried in their phones, enveloped in their own lives. "What do I say to get them to come?" he muttered. Jessica appeared by his side, holding a steaming cup of coffee. "You tell them about what they're missing. It's not just coffee day, it's people coming together, sharing moments that matter," she said, taking a sip. "You've got a gift for speaking. Use it." That evening, standing on the small stage in the center of town, Mark felt the weight of the microphone in his hand. The crowd was smaller than he hoped, yet he couldn't back down. He looked into the faces familiar, yet somehow distant. "I know this community," he began, his voice steadying. "I know the laughter at the local park, the high fives after soccer games, and the shared smiles at coffee shops." Each word seemed to lift the atmosphere, drawing in attention. He saw a flicker of recognition among some, the crinkle of laughter on others' lips. "We're not just a market for companies to tap into," he continued, passion growing stronger. "We're a family. This isn't just about coffee, it's about being here for each other, about taking a stand." People began cheering softly, and he was electrified by the energy. Mark could feel hope coursing through his veins. They could do this. They could rally everyone together in just 2 days. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he saw it, the truth in the crowd. They had a spark to fight, but would it be enough? Would they care enough to fill the 100 chairs they would set up on coffee day, the final hours before the big day brought both excitement and dread? Mark lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. 100 faces filled his mind, faces he wanted to see filled with joy, laughter, and camaraderie. But as he breathed in and out, a nagging thought loomed: what if it wasn't enough? What if they failed? The clock ticked louder. Tomorrow would either be a triumph or a crushing defeat. And as dawn broke over the horizon, Mark's heart raced with a mix of hope and fear, standing at the edge of possibility. Would the community show up, or would he stand alone amidst empty chairs? Mark awoke to the sound of birds chirping just outside his window, the sun casting a golden glow into his dim room. It was coffee day, a day that had seemed so far away just weeks ago, yet here it was, a day full of possibility. He could feel the weight of his dreams pressing down on him, each heartbeat echoing with the determination to make this happen. That he swung his legs off the bed and planted his feet on the cool floor. Today was the moment that could redefine everything. He thought of all the patrons and friends who had supported Caliber Coffee before the threatening changes. Memories of shared laughter, conversations over steaming mugs, echoed inside him like a warm embrace. With urgency coursing through him, he quickly showered and put on his favorite worn-out jeans and a soft t-shirt that read, "Coffee is love." As he combed through his hair, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. The reflection stared back, and suddenly, he wasn't just seeing himself, he was seeing a leader, someone who dared to dream big. He dashed to the kitchen, where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee drifted through the air. Jessica was already there, her fingers swirling around a cup, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, breaking the quiet morning with her lively energy. "I think so," Mark replied, unable to hide the uncertainty in his voice. Jessica shrugged, a confident smile spreading across her face. "You've worked so hard for this. Just remember why we're doing it." He nodded, letting her words wash over him, absorbing her unwavering belief. After a quick breakfast, they loaded the car with supplies, banners, coffee pots, and those treasured flyers adorned with heartfelt messages from their community. As they drove towards the town square, Mark's palms grew sweaty. He parked the car and stepped outside, feeling the warm air envelop him. A mixed crowd of vendors and families buzzed with anticipation, but the fear crept back in. Would people come? Would they choose to take this step together? Together they set up the booth, arranging everything just so, weaving colorful streamers with laughter and good-natured jabs. Then came the moment of truth. The clock struck 10, and the official start time drew near. Mark held his breath, watching the path that led to the booth. He needed to take a risk, he needed to invite them in. Then memories flickered before him, the twinkling eyes of children, the sound of warm greetings, the way coffee had always brought people together. He spotted Mary, the local nurse, strolling toward them with a slight limp, her cane tap-tapping against the pavement. Mark's heartbeat quickened, a wave of determination coursing through him. "Mary!" he called, waving frantically. Her head turned, and when she smiled, it lit up her face. "I heard about the event. Couldn't he miss it?" One by one, faces began to appear, some familiar and others new. Laughter filled the air, and with each interaction, Mark felt that knot of doubt loosening. As he poured coffee and handed out flyers, those moments became less about selling and more about connection. But then, as noon approached, a storm gathered in the distance. Dark clouds rolled in, casting shadows over the hopeful spirit of the event. Mark glanced up nervously. Would the rain drive them away, locking the doors of connection before they got the chance to swing wide open? Just then, a loud clap of thunder broke through the moment, sending shockwaves through the gathering crowd. Mark's heart sank. What if everything they'd worked toward was washed away before it even had the chance to bloom? Then he heard a voice call out, "Let us go on." It was Jessica, rallying the crowd. "We're here to celebrate. Rain or shine, let us share our stories." The energy shifted in an instant, laughter rising louder than the rumble of thunder. Would they really stand together against something as trivial as rain? Mark took a deep breath, feeling hope igniting in the storm. This was it, the moment of truth. But suddenly he realized he'd overlooked something important, a powerful truth hiding beneath the surface. What if their stories were even stronger than the weather? As the first raindrop fell, Mark stood tall among his friends, heart pounding, waiting. Would they truly embrace the messy beauty of it all? The raindrop landed softly on Mark's cheek, like a gentle reminder of reality. A few more followed, and he took a deep breath, feeling that initial shock of doubt creep back in. The crowd was watching him, and he could sense both their anticipation and their hesitation. Would they falter at the first sign of trouble? Or would they choose to rally? He grasped the edge of the folding table, its surface dampening under the sudden downpour. "We're all here for something special," he began, his voice a steadying force against the growing storm. "Coffee isn't just a drink, it's a bridge that connects us. It carries our stories, our laughter, and even our sorrows. No matter the weather, let us celebrate what brought us together today." A ripple of applause emerged from the crowd. Faces that had been uncertain now lit with a spark. Families huddled closer together, friends exchanged determined nods. Mark observed Mary, coffee cup in hand, smiling widely despite her limp. Each heartbeat became a call to action within him, a plea to connect them all. As the rain gained strength, water streamed down the sides of their booth. But rather than retreat, people began to gather, cups in hand, standing shoulder to shoulder beneath a vibrant canopy of hope. Mark felt the warmth of their solidarity radiate. He wasn't alone in this fight. Jessica joined him, her beaming face splattered with droplets, and they shared a look of shared resolve. "We keep going, right?" she asked, her voice fierce against the gale. "Absolutely," Mark replied, energized by the spirit around him. "Let us serve them what they came for." They began pouring coffee in earnest, each cup filled with rich warmth and companionship. Mark greeted each guest as if they were the dearest of friends. "Here you go, Mary. Just how you like it, extra sweet today?" he teased, sparking laughter from her. The storm raged around them, but inside the modest booth, a sense of belonging thrived. Mark noticed others joining in, even offering to help pour coffee or chat with newcomers. The event transformed from a simple gathering to a collective celebration amidst adversity. "I love how everyone's sticking together," Jessica said, her eyes shining. "This is exactly what we needed." But just as the atmosphere reached a peak of joy, the thunder cracked louder, almost mocking. Mark couldn't ignore the anxiety gnawing in his gut. What if someone in the crowd wanted to take the fight to a higher level? What if the storm didn't just threaten them with rain but with confrontation too? A stray thought whispered darkly, fear of change could seep into this moment, just like the rain into their shoes. Yet even amid those fears, a voice from the crowd shouted above the noise, "We're here for you, Mark. Let us show them what we've built." That single statement sent the crowd into an uproar. Laughter bubbled, and enthusiasm surged. A little girl with a bright red raincoat lifted her cup high, and the people surrounding her cheered, raising their coffee as one. It was infectious, a primeval call to arms, like holding a banner against a tempest. Mark's heart expanded. Perhaps the storm wouldn't wash away what they built but rather strengthen it. As he snapped shots of joy beneath the rain, a horizon of colorful umbrellas appeared in his mind. What if this was just the start of something much bigger? But then, an unexpected figure entered Mark's view, a sharp-eyed woman holding a clipboard and a stern expression. She stood at the edge of the crowd, observing intently. Mark's breath caught. Who was she? And what did she want? As she stepped forward, the joyous noise faded, leaving only the pounding of rain and a silence that hummed with tension. Mark braced himself. What would she bring? His heart raced again, not with fear, but with the anticipation of change. The rain dripped steadily, but Mark felt his foundation solidifying. The woman with the clipboard approached, and he could almost feel the crowd collectively hold their breath. What would she say? Would she bring news of the corporation's plans to intervene? As she stopped in front of him, her eyes narrowed with scrutiny. "Are you Mark?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the relentless patter of rain. Mark nodded, steeling himself against any impending storm of critique. "That's me. I'm Claire," she introduced herself, pausing to look around at the lively crowd, now pulsating with laughter and chatter. "I'm here on behalf of the town council." His heart skipped. Was she there to shut them down? But then, she smiled. "We noticed your event, and the energy here is incredible. It's inspiring. You're doing something special." A wave of warmth washed over him. "You really think so? Despite the weather?" Claire chuckled, unwinding slightly. "Absolutely. Folks are showing what community means, and that's what matters most. I'm here to help you make this official, bring everyone together, perhaps even partner with the town council on future events." Mark blinked, processing her words. "You mean?" "Yes. We want to support local businesses. This project of yours could be the road to revitalizing Willow Creek." Laughter erupted from nearby. Kids danced in puddles, neighbors clinked their cups together, and the warmth of humanity wrapped around them, stronger than the storm. Mark's heart soared with newfound hope as murmurs of excitement rippled through the crowd. "I can't believe this," he exclaimed, drawing the eyes of the thrumming crowd. "This isn't just about coffee anymore, it's about all of us. Together, we've built a community that deserves to thrive." The people cheered, hands raised high. Lily suddenly appeared at his side, her features glowing with pride. "Daddy. Did you hear? We're going to be together forever." Mark looked from his daughter to the enthusiastic faces surrounding him. There it was, an unyielding thread of connectedness, woven tight by the essence of dreams, laughter, and stories that resonated through the air like music. "Hold on," Mark addressed Claire, his excitement boiling over. "You're sure this would work? The town council really wants to partner?" "Yes," Claire clarified, her grin wide. "We believe community-led projects can rebuild this town's spirit. Let us take it to the next level." His spirit danced, buoyed by the extraordinary series of events. And still, beneath his joy, the shadows of the looming corporation flickered. "But, what about Caliber Coffee? Let us show them what true community spirit looks like," she said confidently. "Their doing business is one thing, but we have what they don't, a heart." The crowd erupted in cheers, every individual a vibrant note in this newfound composition of connection. Mark felt his heart swelling, every single face spoke volumes. They were ready to defy the odds and protect the town they cherished. As the rain came down like a symphony, even those from Caliber who had once appeared to threaten them now stood seemingly small in comparison to the collective heart beating against adversity. Mark turned back to face the crowd, only now, he stood not just as a mechanic or a dreamer but as a leader, one who dared to dream big enough to include every single person before him. "We have an incredible opportunity to redefine our town together. This is where we start." The crowd erupted again, voices blending into a crescendo of hope. With Claire by his side, they began discussing plans, ideas bursting forth amidst the rain as vibrant umbrellas bloomed overhead like a garden in full color. Plans took shape: weekly events, art showcases, community nights, and performances. Mark could see it thriving in the spirit of restoration. As the storm gradually subsided and sunlight peeked through the clouds, casting a beautiful rainbow over Willow Creek, Mark beamed at the vibrant tapestry of friendships around him. Perhaps they couldn't change the powerhouse of Caliber Coffee on their own, but together they could build something even more meaningful, a home. His thoughts shifted to Amelia, her spirit surrounding him like a warm embrace. She would be proud, and that made him stronger. Finally, as laughter filled the air and hands clinked cups in joyous excitement, he smiled at the realization. This was not the end of their dreams, but merely the beginning of something beautiful and lasting. And with hearts united, Mark, Lily, and their transformed community stood ready to carve their place into the world. Together, they could weather any storm. Now, after a journey of hope and empowerment, it's your turn to join us. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us keep this energy alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending, and please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share.